Oh, yeah. Now we're
Yeah,
there. Now
there
we're
we are.
live.
Hello,
Um,
everyone. Facebook. So great to see and know everyone who's out there today. And we are streaming to LinkedIn, which is another great opportunity to present to communities of women. So I'm Barb Provo with Purse Strings, co-founder of Purse Strings with Maggie Nielsen. And what we do at Purse Strings is we provide women free online tools and resources to help them make smart financial decisions for themselves and for their families. And moreover, is we look high and low for top tier financial professionals like Hannah Chapman, and we present them to our communities of women to provide education, knowledge, skill on lots of various topics. And this month at Purse Strings, we're focusing on entrepreneurs. So you may remember last month we talked about leaving corporate. And this month we're talking about entrepreneurship because so many women are opening their own business every day. I mean, the stats were like 1,800 women were opening their own business every day. So it's super cool. And I was just telling Hannah that yesterday I had the privilege of speaking to the CEO of Women's Bank in Chicago. Hi, Tina. Um, and what's really cool is that people didn't even know there was a women's bank, which recently opened in Chicago in this past year. So I was just saying there's so many amazing women, and 85% of the bank is women positioned. So it's so cool to see all these amazing resources that are coming forward to help support women, educate women, help them get the loans that they need, the small business loans, the financing, the knowledge, the skill to help women, start their businesses, grow their business, make money, right? We say at Purse Strings, if we're not talking about money, we're not learning about money. Money's not a bad thing, and it's okay to make money and earn money and earn a lot of money, right? So at Purse Strings, we're all things money, financial for women. And yeah, today we're bringing you Hannah Chapman. I'll let Maggie take it from here and introduce Hannah and have a great conversation about becoming an entrepreneur.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So today we have Hannah with us. She is owner and founder of X Squared Financial Planning. And she wanted to change the financial way services are done for women. She worked 14 years in a large financial company and found that women were not being served by the traditional model. And so she felt that she needed to change this. And so Hannah really focuses on women business owners and really helps with wealth building. So it could be a smooth process and really great success in your company, but also in legacy. And I know you're all about leaving that legacy as well. So we are so excited to have you here today. And yeah, let's get started.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk about my story in a little bit of a different way, in a different setting than I've done so far since leaving my large firm earlier this
Awesome.
year.
Yeah, we're excited because, it's always easier when you hear someone else's story to feel a little comforted and ask the questions kind of that, they went through and things like that. And so you worked 14 years in this really male dominated industry, which I'm sure that's part of the reason why you created your own company. But was this something that you've always had on your mind of entrepreneurship or building your own business?
Yes. So what is really interesting and unique about my story is that I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. My parents started their own business when I was 3, so early 80s. And then they started a second business when I was in high school as well. So, I didn't grow up like the other kids in school necessarily. When I found out people's parents, worked for a company or, like, I was like, oh, that's weird. Oh, my parents are, pounding pavement. They owned a residential repainting business in Phoenix. And I remember during the summers, like, they would have promotions and we would be the ones passing out the flyers and doing all kinds of marketing work when I was like 6 years old. So I grew up in that culture of, you really make your own opportunities. And when I was in college, there, backing up just a little bit, there was still a lot of, ups and downs. And I think anyone who has ever owned a small business knows, like when it's good, it can be really good. And when it's tough, like it can be really tough.
Right.
So that roller coaster, first of all, led me to, want to be able to control things, and want to have, stability, get a, just a paycheck. Like I want to work
Right.
and just get a paycheck. So, that was kind of how I was feeling, I was an older teenager and into college. But even through that, even when I was working, working at the university when I was in college and I worked at an Eddie Bauer in the mall. I worked a lot, but then I also still had that drive to do something of my own. And I, created a flute studio. I was a flute performance major. So I was, the one out there volunteering and getting flute students and, still building something of my own, even though I was, working regular jobs too. And where that ended up, it was always inside me. It was always something, I was always kind of doing something on my own, outside of, having a regular job. So when I started working at my last firm's large broker dealer, there was that piece of, oh, this is good. Like this is stable. They like me here. This is I'm a integral part of their team. I'm not going to get fired, all of that kind of stuff. Like it felt safe and it felt stable. And that was really important to me for a long time, until I started to get bored. And it was really, I think a lot of women can relate to this as well. There was a year, I think it was 2015 or 2016. I had a great annual performance review. I was always, whatever the raise was for the year, I was always getting twice as much as a typical raise because I worked my butt off all the time and they valued me for that. And at that last, 2015, 2016, my raise was smaller. And the HR manager was like, we still think you're wonderful. Like you did a great job. There's nothing is wrong. You're just, kind of hitting that ceiling of what we want to pay for your position. And so we can't give you the bigger raise. And I was like, well, then we need to make a change because I wasn't done. I knew that there was more for me to do with my work and, I wanted to make more than I was making. And I wasn't ready to be capped out at, I want to say it was like, $75,000. It's like, no, that's where I stop. And so it was that, and, I was like, all right, well, I need something different then. I need a bigger challenge. I need more, more to do. And so that's when I became an advisor, a client-facing advisor versus being, the background person doing all this stuff in the background. And once you step into that client-facing advisor role, even if you work at a bigger company, you are running your own book. So whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not, you are in charge of what is coming in. So after a while,
just to make clear for everyone, because the job is commission based. Some people might get a base salary, but everything is commission. So if you put in what you get out what you put in.
Right.
Just to make that clear for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So, there is the salary piece of it, but if you want to actually earn more then yeah, it's based on your production. So once I was in that role, that's when things really started to change. And that, I had those little nuggets along the way saying I can do this and I should, I feel like I should be, I could do this on my own. I could do this on my own, but no, that's too much. I don't know how to do the business side. I don't know, X, Y, Z. They're just too many things, right? I don't know how to do all these things. I know how to talk to clients. I know how to do wealth planning, but everything else is too scary. And I let that stop me for a long time, thinking that no, I have to be part of a group. I need these people as my mentors. I need, all of these other support systems in place, like thinking that I couldn't recreate that on my own. But as we'll probably go through this a little bit too, the process of learning my own value and owning my own value, and having other people try to negate that because I wasn't fitting quite into the mold that they wanted for that practice. I had to decide that no, I know what I know what my value is, and I can create this on my own. And so that's what I did. And that's how, seeing how women were being treated on both sides of the table. So from, you're my client, from your side, how women clients were being treated and spoken to or not, as is more the case. And on my side, as a female advisor, we're only about 16% of the financial advisory industry as a whole is women. So we're a very small minority. And it just needed to be different. I know how I want to be spoken to. I know how other driven, hardworking professional women want to be spoken to, and it's not happening. We're not being worked with in the right way. And
these are things where I know a lot of women always say the first thing is the financial professional never looked at me. They only looked at the husband. It seemed very like a transactional experience, very much I'm trying to get this sale done rather than this is the best fitting item for you. Right. And so those are some of the things that I know women have come and shared with us before that was, this is why I can't be with that professional. Right. And that's why our professionals are different, because we just know that's not always the way that women like to do things. It's not always an ROI, but am I safe? Am I secure? Is my family secure? Is really the bottom line.
Right. And it's the listening. It's the active listening and the active, yes, I hear you. Okay. What did you just say? Let me synthesize that and repeat it back to you. So that I'm listening and that I'm understanding. And if I'm not getting it, guess what? It's okay. You can ask questions. We will have a discussion, and I am here for you in a way that lets you know, like you said, that you're safe, that someone is listening to you, that someone is giving you what's best, the options that are best for you, rather than, here you go, just don't worry about it. You don't have to think. I'll just that's not what we want, and it's not respectful. So yes, so I launched my own firm. This it was January 29th of 2021. So January of this year, that I launched, and it took a lot of, pre-work on the front side. And being in the industry that I'm in, it had to be all on my own time, and I had to be so careful about it. So I know with other women who, maybe they have a side hustle or, something else that if you can build it up on the side, that's awesome. And, how you can, the different things to look at before you actually launch. And if you can do that and you're in a position and an industry where you can do both at the same time, that's excellent. It's a great way to do it. And if not, I can help with that too, because there's, some places you can't build out your safety net before you jump. You have to make the leap, because that's what the industry is. Right. So, yeah.
So how did you know you were ready to take that jump and go into entrepreneurship? What was the final, I can do this?
The final I can do this was actually after interviewing at several other firms. So when I decided that the firm that I was at couldn't be where I stayed forever, I interviewed at 3 other places, all that were established. One independent firm that was fairly big. They had about 15 or 16 partners and a lot of staff. So it was a pretty big company. And another firm that was one guy with a couple of other employees as well. So a smaller firm than I was in. So our firm was about medium size, and a bigger firm and a smaller firm. And then another place that was a CPA, so an accounting firm that was starting a wealth advisory arm.
Mm-hmm.
So three very different places. And as I interviewed with each one, it became really clear that the way that I wanted to do business was different enough from each of these other places that I was like, oh, I'm not going to, plug in somewhere else. None of these other places are doing business the way that I really want to do business. And so it was after that third interview with the smallest company that I was like, I had the ideas that I have are good and they're important and my vision is important and no one else is gonna do it the way that I want to do it. And the voice that I have and the ideas that I have, I didn't want to have to filter them through someone else anymore. I didn't want to, say, hey, I think this is important. And then have someone else go, we'll talk about it at next month's board meeting. Like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So it was truly through kind of exploring those options that I realized that, it kind of, the river of options like kept just, channeling down and down until it was like, I got to do it on my own. This is the option.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was December. I kind of decided in May of 2020 that it was, okay, I need to find somewhere else. And it was in December of 2020, after lots of research that I was decided, no, I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to be my own boss and make my own decisions.
That's awesome. That's so great. And one of the points you brought up before is really this support system that comes with working at a larger company. You have coworkers to learn from, you have mentors above you, even people below you that you coach. Who knows? You just have a lot of interaction where sometimes it's just you when you're working. And so it's hard to bounce off ideas. Who were some mentors along the way that you used to kind of when building and making the decision to build your company? And, how did you find these people?
So the first mentors that I had were actually, so in my company, the partners that were at my last company. And I learned a lot, like everything that I know. My time there was extremely important. I wouldn't be the advisor that I am without having, learned as much as I did over those, 14 years with my previous employer. And so there was a lot. There's always good, right? Everything happens for us and not to us. If we can filter, shift to look at it that way, all the beauty that was there. And at the same time, in 2018, I think it was 2018, I went to a women's conference, 2019. I went to a women's conference for our company and they had a mentorship program because again, in the financial advisor world, we're like 16%, women. There just aren't very many. So they had set up this mentorship program for the, the older, more experienced advisors to, mentor the younger people. And when I went into this, breakout room to learn about that, one of the women who had been on stage and talking about the mentorship program with her current mentor, I was like, oh, she's awesome. Like, I think she'd been in the company for like 30 years. She has huge practice and super successful, but also like really like she worked in the oil industry before. So she came from male dominated industry and, kicked butt in another one. And so I thought she was really cool. And sure enough, when we're like mingling with people, she started talking to me, and asking me, oh, so what do you do? I'm like, oh, here's what I do. I'm supposed to be the successor for this other person who's retiring. And she said, do you have that in writing? And I said, no. She's like, huh. She asked me a couple more questions. I said something else. She's like, do you have that in writing? I was like, no. She's like, all right, well, I think you're going to be my mentee. So I'm going to hang on to you. Her name was Kathy. And I was like, oh, okay. That's like, I did not expect that because she was, again, just this really powerhouse of an advisor.
Right.
And she took me under her wing and worked with me for a full year. Every single month, we would talk about, what makes sense? How do you run a business? We just did so much. And how do you advocate for yourself was one of the biggest things
so important.
Because again, like I trusted my group to just do what was right because I'd been there for so long. And I was so, I knew I was very important to them. And to this day, I know, like I was a very important part of their team. But we didn't have a contract and we didn't have the things that we talked about, the reasons, like all of this stuff in writing. And Kathy saw that, and she saw that as this glaring hole. Like, this is not, you are not.
It makes a lot of sense once you bring it up because
right.
Just because you're verbally promised it doesn't mean much these days. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And that was it. It was that I kept pushing, I kept advocating. It was like, I knew even when I was like feeling like, I don't want to bring this up again, I would think I'm going to have a conversation with Kathy next week. And I have to, I have to be able to tell her that we talked about it. I did my homework, right? Mm-hmm. Type A, check off the list, do my homework. And so what I really realized was through working with her, and talking, and as the conversations weren't quite going well and we weren't getting anywhere different, and things kept getting pushed off, and that's through working with her was, I don't know if you're going to be able to build this vision, like build the things that are important to you there. Mm-hmm. And that was hard to hear, truly, because I was like, no, that can't be right. That can't, right?
You have your plan kind of set, right. This is the way it's going to be. So it's hard to kind of get shaken off that track.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I also, I started working with a therapist during that time as well, and going through, a lot of other stuff, and all still work related, but like I needed help sorting through a lot of the emotional impact of what was going on.
And that's so important to just bring up and share. And it's not easy leaving a job, starting a job. It's very stressful. I know you're a mom too. Yeah. So like you got a couple things going on. So that's also, you took that money and time and put yourself first, which is also so important. We need to keep doing out there. Just a little shout out on that. I'll get back to you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it was the same, like going through all the pieces, like sorting through what I was feeling and how it was impacting me and my mental health and all of that. And same conclusion. It was like, I don't know, like it was that, what do you want? What do you desire? Mm-hmm. What's important to you? What's the impact you want to make? Can you do that where you're at? And the answer again was no. And it was like, really? Like why? And to me, I remember this conversation with her. We were talking about it, and I was like, but why does it have to be the harder choice? Like to me, like going out on my own, being an entrepreneur, like cutting the ties, taking away the safety net, that felt like the hard choice. That felt like the scary one. Like, why does it have to be the scary one that's like the right path? But it was
just all on you. You got to trust in yourself.
Right. It was that, yes, 100% trusting myself and knowing that as I stepped off, it's like it looks like a cliff and there's like all this fog in front of you and it looks like there's no path, right? No, I'm going to step, I'm going to fall. Well, no, you're going to step and you're just going to keep walking through the fog and you're going to be able to see what's next, the right next step. You don't have to see the next 500 miles. You just need to see the next couple of steps and take those. And so that's what, I was like, okay, yeah, that's right. That is right. And I knew, and every time I was like, oh, this is the hard way. Like, no, that's it. That's the right way. That's the one that you have to take. So really those first two mentors, were so important in helping me, again, see my own value, define my own dream, and then advocate for myself. And that's a lot that a lot of women have a hard time with. The more entrepreneurs that I talk to, the more women that I talk to, those are the things that hold us back, is being afraid to trust ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's the main thing, I think. And then after or really like as I was launching, I started working with a business coach. In January, I went to a free master class with her in December of 2020. And I was like, oh, she had built a law firm. So lawyers and financial advisors, very similar personality, both. Yeah. She's like my twin soul in a lawyer, in a lawyer's body. And so she had done the same, but big law firm to a smaller law firm, launched her own, created a niche, and created a successful law firm. And now she's coaching women. And I was like, that's what I need. I need someone to walk me through. Like, I feel confident now that I can do it. Now I need someone to like help me walk the path. So someone else makes the mistakes, or, like I can learn from someone else's mistakes and rather than make them myself. And really what I have done this year with her has been more about like the inner work, more so even than the systems and processes. Like once we started working, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do all that. Like I've been doing it for so long, right? Like I was in a humongous firm and I was like running the whole financial planning department of it. Like I know how to do that. That's not hard. But trusting myself that I knew those things was the big part of it. But so yes, having with Jen, my business coach, like that is where I have been able to really hone in and define, who I want to work with, who I resonate with, what my, I had kind of my vision before, but what is it? Like, what's the big vision? What's really important to me, and how do I get there? That's what I've been able to do with her. And I've found a lot of value in working with a coach.
I think sometimes you realize then how small you were playing.
Right.
And you were like, oh, I can do a ton more. Don't worry about it. Like I was playing small, and then you really get your decision. I mean, like that decision kind of confirms in itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I had mentors that I didn't have to pay for.
Of course.
And then, therapist. Yes, you pay your therapist. And then having a business coach. Yes. Anyone who has questions about that, I am happy to share. My experience.
We love our business coach too. Yeah.
Right.
Everyone, you need it at some step of the way for sure.
Yeah.
So besides these great mentors, what other advice or resources would you recommend to current entrepreneurs or women who are thinking about taking that leap of faith as well?
Yes. So one of the things that, I have realized, or what helped me realize truly where I was holding myself back the most was, in reading and listening to like just so many books. So I have read, and I think I've read about 20-ish books, like paper, and listened to 25 or more in the last 18 months or so. And the first one, and this is especially for women who are thinking about making a leap to entrepreneurship, but also who want to like move up in leadership in a company. Either one. It's called How Women Rise by Sally Helgeson and Marshall Goldsmith. Again, it's How Women Rise. And it's all about how we limit ourselves. The ways that we, prove that we're amazing employees. Yes. A lot of us are perfectionists. A lot of us are people pleasers. We take care of others. When anyone has something they need to do, yeah, I can do that. We'll take it on and take it on and take it on. And, to be the one that can do all the stuff. And those traits that we tend to have, that's what keeps us stuck in that, hey, you're an amazing employee. We can't let you go anywhere because you do all the stuff. Rather than understanding that, it's not what we do, but it's our ideas, it's who we are, it's our values. That is what is really, really important in a leadership capacity, whether you're at a company or on your own. And delegating away those pieces and really like healing the perfectionist and people pleaser parts of ourselves is what allows us to launch forward in a big way. I actually sat in my car. I listened to that one on Audible, and in the introduction, just in the introduction, they were talking about the woman she was the leader of the Girl Scouts for a really long time. She's a very famous leader, like famously an amazing leader as well, like a compassionate and, just a really empowering leader in her company. And when she worked with Marshall Goldsmith as a coach, as an executive coach, he interviewed, everyone in her company under her to give her feedback. And so she gets this feedback packet, and it's amazing. People telling her like how much they appreciate her, how amazing she is as a leader. And the first thing she did was rifle through it. And she was like, oh my God, I have so many things that I need to improve on. And she started making a list of everything she needed to improve. And I sat there and I cried in my car because I was like, that's exactly how I would take that. Like, no, these people, the people under you appreciate you so much. Like, stop and look at that. Stop and feel how, you are allowed to be amazing. Like, that's okay. But
you can feel good.
You can feel good about that. But no, instead, like the initial response is to be like, oh my God, it's still not perfect. It's still not perfect. And so like that, I was hooked immediately. I'm like, all right, what else am I doing wrong? Right.
It's all about, I always like to put it back in the perspective. Like, I think of like my best friend or even my mom. I was like, would she say this to me? Or would I ever say that to them? Like there's no way I would do that. So it's like, I can't say that to myself either. If somebody saw that, you'd be like astounded, but,
Right. Yes, exactly. Be your own best friend and talk to yourself that way.
Stuck with yourself forever. So
right.
Be friends.
Yes. Best way to do it. So yes, that I recommend that one a lot. Just really, really universal truths, I think, of any woman who is driven to be in any sort of leadership role. Like we are a lot more alike than we are different. Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Brene Brown is like my spirit animal. She's amazing. I really love the way that she presents vulnerability and presents how important it is to be vulnerable, and what that actually means is that, like if you're taking risks and if you are, trying to be innovative, that is, you can't be those things without vulnerability, without trying something that might fail. And that's another big piece. We don't want to fail. I didn't want to fail. I'm sure you guys, you don't want to fail. Like no one,
I'm not trying to.
Right? Yeah. But it happens, and it's going to, and you're not going to get anywhere without failing over and over and over. And learning how to embrace that and lead through it. And that, so that was another really, really important one I listened to probably 3 or 4 times. And that was also what showed me, those 2 books showed me what wasn't happening where I was at. And when it became clear that, this is how I want to do business, this is what's important to me, and I can't change that from the inside. That was a thought for a long time. I'll change it from the inside, right? I'll be the change that I want to see from within. And that's noble until it starts to really affect your mental health, right? And once you start breaking down, you aren't the valuable person. You're still valuable as a person, but you're not bringing your best self to anything that you're doing, because you can't, because you're not safe anymore. So that was really, like, okay, like I have to, if I'm going to create this, I have to create it. And it has to be from the ground up, basically, is kind of what it looked like. Because I don't see what I want. I don't see it out there.
Right. Awesome. This has been so much great advice of how to be, an entrepreneur and different steps you took to get there. Just to, top it off, let's hear a little bit about this creation that you made, about your company. What is it? What do you do? Who do you serve? What are your specialties?
Yeah, so X Squared Wealth Planning is my 4th baby. have 3 kids, and now my business is my 4th one. I work mainly with female entrepreneurs, and I have chosen that niche because I think that there's so much that we do to take care of others, especially as entrepreneurs. When we own our own businesses, we do the same thing. We still are caring so much for everyone around us, and we're not taking care of ourselves first. So my goal and my vision is to help women entrepreneurs build so much wealth, build their business wealth, but also build their personal wealth at the same time in such great quantities that they can take care of their own families, they can take care of themselves exactly the way they want to, and have so much left over that they can then, have a legacy that spreads out into the world and makes an impact in the way that is important to them. So the way I do that is by, really, when I meet someone, first you have to, get along with the person, right? So
of course, got to vibe them out.
Right. Yeah. Get a good feeling for each other and see if we're a good fit, have the same, kind of vision for the future. And then, really look at the whole situation and do that comprehensive plan. And where are you now? What do you want to do? And what roadmap can we put in place to help, the steps that we can take to get there? And from that, that's where the magic happens. Get that plan ready, and then we can implement it together. And that's, creating the right investments, creating the right accounts, making sure the tax planning is, done properly year to year, all of the nuts and bolts. And that's important, but that's secondary to knowing what you want to do. So really it's digging into that first, and then creating a plan that complements it and gets you there. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years, really. And it's so amazing to see when, my clients that I've had for a long time, when they're paying for college for their kids, or one recent client, his daughter recently got engaged, and he and his wife were there, and they surprised, it was a surprise engagement. She knew, but she was still surprised. So I got to see like the picture of, she's like crying, like, looky, and I'm like, oh, we get to plan for a wedding now, like it's
You're
so
part of the family,
right? Yeah. And they're ready for it, right? Because we already planned for it. It's like,
right?
Are you okay? I'm like, yeah, the money's there. We've already planned for it,
which makes everything so much more enjoyable. You're excited about them getting married, not just like sweating, like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, exactly. It's taken care of, but I get to be there with them for all of that. So it's wonderful to like help people define their dreams, and then it's doubly wonderful to be the one to be like, yeah, here's the money, write the check. So
that's
you
wonderful.
already did it. So yeah, that's what I do. Is that a good enough explanation?
It's great. It's great. We just want to make sure all the women here can, use your services, understand what you do. Always feel free to reach out to Hannah. She is one of our wonderful Purse Strings approved professionals. If anyone on has any questions, they're more than welcome to throw them in. I'll bring Barb on, see if she has any questions.
Hi, Barb.
Hi, Hannah. Thank you so much. I've been just like taking in your every word because, we're all the 3 of us are entrepreneurs here. So we've all traveled that path where you're stepping out on a lot of skinny limbs and people are telling you should go there, don't go there. That might be really scary. And you're like, yeah, but what I want is out there, and what I desire and what's going to make me happy is out there, even though I'm not quite sure, like you said, what's 100 miles down the path, but I know the next step is where I need to go. And it's not easy, right? We've oftentimes been brought to our knees on how is this ever going to work? How's this ever going to happen? But you get yourself up and dust yourself off, and you just take that next step. And you have great support systems around you who say that what you're doing is important and you need to take the next step and keep doing what you're doing. So your cheerleading squad is always really helpful, and we all have them, right? So, and I love, Hannah, the vulnerability around it that you shared. I can't tell you where, a few nights my head hits the pillow and I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But then I just say, Barb, just one day at a time. And I look at a lot of motivational, like water your own lawn. Like, don't look at what other people are doing. Just water your own lawn, one step at a time. You got this. This is what you're supposed to do. You're on the right path. And it's a lot of head talk. It is, but it's important to keep yourself in the game. So I love that you shared the vulnerability. I will add one more book that I loved, and Maggie knows I loved it, which is We Should All Be Millionaires.
Mhm.
Okay, so Hannah, you're gonna love it. And I listened to it on Audible as well. And the author, reads it. She's kick-ass, so that's another great one. This has been so much fun.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate the conversation, Maggie, that style rather than, I give a lot of presentations and that's awesome too. And I really enjoy that. But yeah, kind of just being able to discuss, because I know, like I said, I know that there are so many women that feel the same way.
Yeah.
And it's that, you're getting to the end of your rope of like, this is not working. I feel bad. And when you're feeling bad, everything screaming to you that something needs to change.
Yes.
And trusting yourself that it can feel good. Like life can feel good on the other side. And it takes work to get there, right? On a daily basis. But once you start feeling good, it starts to everything starts to, snowball in the good direction.
They do. And it does.
Even if it's hard work, it's kind of like, well, I know I really love doing this. I mean, this may not be my favorite detailed part about it, but it's like, I know the big goal. I know this is like my mission. And so I'm really backed behind it, even though I don't want to do this one item.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which makes it easier, smoother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You wear many hats. Some you don't want to wear, but you got to put it on anyway. Make it happen, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So this has been great. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah, for coming today. Hannah's founder and owner of X Squared Financial Planning, or Wealth Planning, excuse me. And so you can always reach Hannah at hannah.chapman at x2wealthplanning.com. She's also one of our wonderful Purse Strings approved professionals. So you can always check her out on our website, pursestrings.co. And we will be here all month except Thanksgiving to provide content about entrepreneurship. So we'd love to hear any of your women's stories of how this connected to you today. And thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.